Well done, good and faithful servant.
And I heard, as it were, the voice of a great multitude, and as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of mighty thundering, saying, Alleluia! For the Lord God omnipotent reigneth. Let us be glad and rejoice, and give honor to him, for the marriage of the Lamb is come, and his wife hath made herself ready. And her was granted that she should be arrayed in fine linen, clean and white. For the fine linen is the righteousness of saints. And he saith unto me, Write, blessed are they which are called unto the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he saith unto me, These are the true sayings of God.
You know, the hopeful elect, of which we believe we are according to faith, and the importance of being of that group called the elect, which are also known as the church of the firstborn in the scriptures. Firstborn meaning the first spirits created. And it would make sense the Heavenly Father would take the first spirits created to be the rulers of the nation, the aristocrat, if you will. If you know your words, the word aristocrat literally means best rule. The first spirits created are the best ones to rule. That's why Yahushua is the first of the first, and he's the best of the best to rule. You know, Yahushua will be ruling in the next kingdom, and right underneath him will be King David, you know.
But ye shall be named the priests of the Lord. Men shall call you the ministers of our God. Ye shall eat the riches of the Gentiles, and in their glory shall ye boast yourselves. For your shame ye shall have double, and for confusion they shall rejoice in their portion. Therefore in their land they shall possess the double, everlasting joy shall be unto them. For I the Lord love judgment, I hate robbery for burnt offering. And I will direct their work in truth, and I will make an everlasting covenant with them. And their seed shall be known among the Gentiles, and their offspring among the people. All that see them shall acknowledge them, that they are the seed which the Lord hath blessed. I will greatly rejoice in the Lord, my soul shall be joyful in my God. For he hath clothed me with the garments of salvation, he hath covered me with the robe of righteousness, as a bridegroom decketh himself with ornaments, and as a bride adorneth herself with her jewels. For as the earth bringeth forth her bud, and as the garden causeth the things that are sown in it to spring forth, so the Lord will cause righteousness and praise to spring forth before all the nations.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Kakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word in truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bashem Shai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Shai. All right. And what I want to get into this morning, you know, is dealing with a continuation of the book of Acts. All right, the 12th, the 22nd chapter, Salakia. And this goes into Paul, you know, he utilizes, you know, his Roman citizenship, you know, and this plays into, as we read in the previous chapter, okay, how Apostle Paul, you know, was on his way, you know, to being bound, you know, and being apprehended by the Roman government, you know, and the fact that he's a Roman citizen, you know, it gives him certain rights, you know, in particular perks, within the Roman Empire, so they couldn't just handle him any type of way, similar to having, a U.S. citizenship, but with the Roman citizenship, it was a little more exclusive, as we're going to go into it, okay? But what we have, is Jake, or the circumcision, especially those in Jerusalem, they had a major problem with the Apostle Paul and teaching to Israelite foreigners, okay, bringing them back into the fold through the teaching of Yahushua, okay? So this word, which we always got to get it. Let's go here to the book of Luke, okay? It's the book of Luke, chapter 2, verse 34. I'm gonna also get the other one. It's the book of Luke, chapter 2, verse 34. It says, "And Simeon blessed them and said unto his mother, Behold, this child is set for the fall and rising again of many in Israel, and for a sign which shall be spoken against." Okay? So Yahweh Shai and the teaching of Yahweh Shai was meant to be a sign that was spoken against. This was going to separate, the elect from the non-elect. Well, Yahweh Shai is that separator, because way our people, the way Israelites respond to Yahweh Shai, well, that separates them from being the elect and the non-elect. Okay, that separate those from the ones predestined to be delivered and those predestined to be destroyed. Okay, Luke 2 and 35 it said, "Yeah, a sword shall pierce through the whole soul also, that the thoughts of many hearts may be revealed." Okay, so the preaching of Yahweh Shai really showed, if the Lord was dealing or not, because it exposed your mind. Okay, and as the Apostle Paul is teaching Yahweh Shai, and these Israelite foreigners are believing and coming back, you see, there's a reaction, okay, of those predestined, to be judged, to be condemned. So just as you have those predestined, okay, for deliverance, to be part of their remnant, to believe, well, there's a predestination of the non-elect, okay, and these things are exposed through the teaching of Yahweh Shai. You look at how people, react now, okay, to Yahweh Shai, okay. The beloved elder brother, Manata Zagba, is always posting, those videos responding to, Jake, all right, trying to condemn, the Hebrew Israelites and speaking against the Hebrew Israelites. They're just, they're being revealed. Their mind, as the preaching going forth, people are revealing their minds, what's inside them. Okay? Like his word is like in what to a two-edged sword. Okay? And it exposes what's inside. You're cut. Okay? A lot of people cut by this word and they're just bleeding out over the internet. Okay? This is 1 Peter 2 and 6. It said, "Wherefore also it is contained in the scripture, Behold, I lay in Zion the chief cornerstone, elect precious, and he that believeth on him, on Yahushua, that chief cornerstone, shall not be confounded." Okay? So those that believe on Yahushua shall not be confounded. Okay? And that's why, as this thing plays out, prophecy play out, we're becoming more and more validated. Okay, what we're saying is making more sense to where you see a lot of people riding the wave of the true men of Yahushua. Okay, when it comes to the talking points, okay, certain topics, certain scriptures, okay, that's becoming, a part of, common conversation. Well, it stems from those true followers in Yahushua. Okay, because as this thing goes on, we're going to be more and more validated by the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Shah. Man, these people are going to be confounded, confused. All right, they're bucked up against it. Okay, it says, "Unto you, therefore, which believe, he is precious." Okay, so this goes into the duality, going back towards the rise and fall. Okay, a sign that should be spoken against. So this goes into the duality of Yahweh, okay? Because Yahweh was meant to cause division and expose, okay, your thoughts, your mind, your spirit, expose what you are, okay? It says, unto you, therefore, which believe he is precious. So if, it's Lord will, we are the number, that's why Yahweh is precious to a few. That's why his name matters. That's why what he did matters, man. That sacrifice, okay? Understanding that sacrifice and really appreciating, that matters to the elect. All these things matter to the elect because this is he's precious unto us. Matter of fact, um, let's get that word precious in the Greek, right? And I think it's T May.
Strong's G 5092 to May.
To May.
To May.
Okay. To May. It says a valuing by which the price, okay, is fixed. I'm gonna go down. Yeah, here you go. It said the honor, okay, the honor which belongs or is shown to one, of the honor which one has by reason of rank and state of office which he holds, a deference, a reverence, man. Okay, of the honor which one has by reason of rank and state of office which he holds, man. So we have a reverence and the honor for Yahweh Shai, man. That due to his rank, okay, and who he is, all right, and what the Lord, set for him to do, and he accomplished, man. Okay, Yahweh accomplished a mighty victory for the elect through the crucifixion, man. Okay, through that sacrifice, man. Okay, and to the elect, all this precious, man, and that's factored in to the elect. And the preaching of the word reveals how precious Yahweh Shai is to the elect, man. Okay, it said, but unto them which be disobedient, the stone which the builders disallowed, the same is made the head of the corner. Okay, so unto them niggas that disobedient, okay, the ones that try to disallow Yahweh Shai, also these niggas, even after Yahweh Shai's death and resurrection, okay, they wanted to disallow the word going forth. Okay, Jake was offended at that word going forth. Jake was cut. Okay, you had, those gainsayers when Yahweh Shai was living, but even when he was on the earth, because he's living now. Okay, he's at the right hand now. But when Yahweh Shai was on the earth before the death and resurrection, you had, a mob of niggas that was wanting to disallow, okay, the preaching to go forth. Okay, and then after, okay, he was back in the heavens, back in his rightful position at the right hand of the Father, and it was the disciples, which became apostles, they began to teach. Jake wanted to disallow them. Okay, it says, and they stone the stumbling and a rock of offense, even to them which stumble at the word, being disobedient, whereto also they were appointed. Okay, these niggas was appointed to be disobedient. Okay, they was assigned to be disobedient and reject Yahweh Shai. So we don't marvel at our people that don't believe. Okay, that even proudly speak against this word, because 2/3 were appointed. Non-believers, it's a part of it. It's a necessary. All right, they have a role in prophecy. That's a necessary role. Okay, that has to be played out in prophecy, man. This the book Acts chapter 22 verse 1. It said, men, brethren, and fathers, hear hear ye my defense, which I make now unto you. So he's speaking to Jake, because now he's speaking to Hebrew. He was speaking to the Roman soldiers in Greek. Okay, but he's speaking to, all right, the mob. What I would call the angry, Hebrew mob. Okay, he's speaking to them in Hebrew. So Acts 21, much like Acts 22 and verse 1. It said, men, brethren, and fathers, hear you my defense, which I make now unto you. And when they heard that he spake in the Hebrew tongue to them, they kept the more silence and said, I am verily a man with the it said, I'm verily a man which am a Jew, born in Tarsus, a city in Cilicia, yet brought up in the city at the feet of Gamaliel, and taught according to the perfect manner of the law of the fathers, and was zealous towards the Most High, as you are this day. And it says, and I persecuted this way unto death, binding and delivering into prison both men and women. And it says, as also the high priest doth bear me witness, and all the estate of the elders, from whom also I received letters unto the brethren, and went to Damascus to bring them which were there bound unto Jerusalem to be punished. And it came to pass that as I made my journey, and I was come nigh unto Damascus about noon, suddenly there shone from heaven a great light round about me, and I fell into the ground, and heard a voice saying unto me, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? And I answered, who art thou, Lord? And he said unto me, I am Yahweh Shai of Nazareth, whom thou persecute. Okay, so he goes into his testimony. He's giving his full testimony. Like, look, I understand where y'all coming from. I used to be on the same thing. Paul was real crafty, man. He was a slippery fellow, in righteousness. You see, we can learn from it. But yeah, he telling them basically, look, I was on the same thing. I get it. You see, so he's giving his whole rundown, his testimony, and then with his famous, road to Damascus moment, when he had to change of heart, from what he used to be on. Okay, like now he encountered Yahweh. You tell him like, nigga, I seen Yahweh. I just had to change. You know, Gee whiz, nigga, what you? But Jake is unreasonable. You're going to get into. He says, and I answered, who art thou, Lord? And he said unto me, I am Yahweh of Nazareth, whom thou persecuted. And they that were with me saw indeed the light, and were afraid, but they heard not the voice of him that spake to me. And I said, what shall I do, Lord? And the Lord said unto me, arise and go into Damascus, and there it shall be told thee of all the things which are appointed for thee to do. And when I could not see for the glory of the light, that chariot, bright and blinding him, but it also goes into him being, seeing with new eyes. He was blind for 3 days. Three goes into understanding. So when his eyes was opened up, it was opened up to a new understanding, new sight, new vision, which we all, when we hear this word, okay, the Lord disrupts, our life, okay, and search this word, okay, and we, have become, blessed with new understanding, blind to the old way, and we began to see with clarity the new way, okay. So it says, being led by the hand of them that were with me, I came into Damascus. And one Ananias, a devout man, according to the law, having a good report of all the Jews which dwelt there, came unto me and stood and said unto me, Brother Saul, receive thy sight. And the same hour I looked upon him, and he said, the power of our fathers have chosen thee, that thou shouldest know his will, and he, all right, and see that just one, and shouldest hear the voice of his mouth. Okay, so Ananias is confirming, that hey, this is a conversion. You just been You had an encounter with Yahweh. Okay, you're being chosen as a vessel, as you read about in the book of Acts chapter 9, verse 15. Apostle Paul was singled out as a vessel. And he had a broad and mighty office in Yahweh, man. Okay, it said, "For thou shalt be his witness unto all men, and what thou hast seen and heard. And now, why tarriest thou? Arise and be baptized, and wash away thy sins, calling on the name of the Lord Yahweh Bashem Shai." It says, and it came to pass that when I was come again to Jerusalem, even while I prayed in the temple, I was in a trance, and I saw him saying unto me, Make haste and get thee quickly out of Jerusalem, for they will not receive the testimony concerning me. And I said, Lord, they know that I am imprisoned and beat in every synagogue. All right, it said, and I said, Lord, they know that I am imprisoned and beat in every synagogue them that believed on thee. Okay, so Apostle Paul was like, look, hey, I'm still, I believe, you know, I'm converted, but my track record, I don't know how this going. You see, because they know what I was on. Okay, in which it took a minute for the believer to come around to the Apostle Paul. They were skeptical like this. Y'all show. Because Paul was hard body. You see how hard he went in the ministry, man. So imagine the same energy was being used to persecute. All right, the church, man. Okay, so it took it was a growing. It had to be it had to grow on. For lack of better words, it had to grow on the church, the believers. But once they seen he was legit, he was their guy. You know, and it says, and when the blood of the martyr Stephen was shed, I was standing by and consenting unto his death and kept the raiment, okay, of them that slew him. So he was holding, their coats and their garments. Them wicked niggas, they was stripping down, you know, to stone, Stephen, because he cut them niggas, man. Okay. It says, and he said unto me, Depart, for I will send thee far hence unto the Gentiles. And they gave him, all right, and it said they gave him audience unto his word, and then lifted up their voices and said, Away with such a fellow from the earth, for it is not fit that he should live, man. So that spill, okay, then do it for Jake, man. Jake wanted blood. They say he shouldn't be on the planet. You see, and that's the energy you see with Jake, man. Right now it's just TikTok videos, okay, responses, and how they feel, okay. But if it was up to Jake, we'll see when the persecution, when brothers start getting snatched up, and it start being a thing that's trending on social media. Don't be surprised at the response, man. The way that Jake respond, don't be, don't marvel at it. Okay, because Jake gonna want blood. People you never knew, people whose lives you never, you know, affected in any type of way. Okay, Jake gonna want blood like you personally did something to him, man. Okay, when Esau really start to make his move and they start seeing, mug shots and whatever. Okay, then Jake gonna let you know how they really felt the whole time. Okay. It says the chief captain commanded him to be brought into the council and bade that he should be examined by scourging, that he might know wherefore they cried so against him. And as they bound him with thongs, Paul said unto the centurion that stood by, Is it lawful for you to scourge a man that is a Roman and uncondemned? When the centurion heard that, he went and told the chief captain, saying, Take heed what thou doest, for this man is a Roman, so he plays a Roman card. Okay, in this situation, he tried to appease to Jake. He spilled his heart out to Jake. Okay, and Jake was like off with his head. He shouldn't be on Earth. You see, so he used his Roman card, man, which was wise. Okay, which was wise, man. You see, we could use our U.S. citizenship in the jam. Okay, hell yeah, we will use it. You see, use this word, not abuse it. Okay, so Paul, he practicing what he later preaches. Okay, he says when the centurion heard that, he went and told the chief captain, saying, "Take heed what thou doest, for this man is a Roman." Then the chief captain came and said unto him, "Tell me, art thou a Roman?" He said, "Yeah." And the chief captain answered, "With a great sum obtained I this freedom." So the chief captain, like, I had to buy mine, with a great sum. I had to buy my Roman citizenship. And Paul said, "But I was freeborn," which means he was born into Roman citizenship. Okay. It says, "Then straightway they departed from which," all right, they departed from him which should have examined him. And the chief captain also was afraid after he knew that he was a Roman, and because he had bound him on the morrow, because he would have known the certainty wherefore he was accused of the Jews, he loosed him from his bands and commanded that the chief priests and all their council to appear, and brought Paul down and set him before them. So now he's having a formal trial, okay, because he's a Roman citizen, which it came with particular perks to be a Roman citizen. I want to get this here, okay. So I asked in the chat, okay, so the perks of being a Roman citizen, background of the apostles' family, and him being born a Roman citizen. All right, and was Roman citizenship similar to having American citizenship? All right, so it says great passage to zoom in on. All right, it says Acts 22 is a peak. Paul knows his right moment. Okay, so when you get into Salaki, when you get into the book of Acts, chapter 22, it says, why Roman citizenship mattered. In Acts 22, verses 25 through 29, Paul is about to be scourged, a brutal whipping used to extract confessions. But there was nothing to confess because he confessed. There was nothing to confess. Them niggas was lying. Okay? He told them everything that he was about, what he was on. Okay? But niggas was unreasonable. It said just before it happened, he casually asked, is it lawful for you to scourge a man who's a Roman and uncondemned? This question hits like a legal mic drop. The soldiers panicked because punishing a Roman citizen without trial was illegal and could seriously backfire on them. How Paul was a Roman citizen. It said Roman citizenship wasn't common, especially for Jews in the eastern, all right, provinces. Paul says, "I was born a citizen." Okay, that tells a lot. Okay, so being a Roman citizen wasn't, common. It was the minority of the Roman Empire. Okay, the actual Roman citizens in the Roman Empire was the minority. It was a more exclusive. Roman citizenship was a little more exclusive. Okay, during this time, it said Paul's family background. It said Paul was from Tarsus, a major, all right, respected city in Cilicia, modern day Turkey. Tarsus had special status with the Roman Empire. His family likely received citizenship generations earlier, possibly because an ancestor rendered service to Rome or held a civic or military role, or received it as a reward during Roman expansion. So his family, he had his family had to be Roman citizens generations earlier. Okay, and that's why as a Roman citizen he was able to uh, be a Pharisee like his father. Okay, because as a landowner, in the Roman Empire, okay, as a Roman citizen, you can practice, your own religion, and they was able to continue in the customs of their forefather, okay, through the law, It says citizenship could be purchased, which was expensive, like the Roman soldiers just said, granted for service, inherited by birth, Paul's case. So Paul grew up an Israelite, a Pharisee trained under Gamaliel, Greek speaking, legally Roman. That triple identity made him incredibly, all right, effective as a missionary. So the Paul, you could tell that, Yahweh Bashim Shai, the Most High, he customized Paul for his mission, and everybody customized, for their office, man. As the scriptures say, a man's gift making room for him. Okay. So the Apostle Paul, he was given the gift, the way he was born and his status and, being raised up in the law, but then encountering Yahweh Shai, it just his the Lord, customized the Apostle Paul for his ministry, man. Just like every brother is customized for their office, man. Whatever their role, whatever their office is, okay, each brother is customized for that, man. Okay. Um, Reading down, it said the triple identity made him incredibly effective as a missionary. It said perks of Roman citizenship as seen in Acts. It said Roman citizenship came with a serious legal protections, protection from cruel punishment, no scourging without trial, no torture to extract confessions, no humiliating penalties reserved for non-citizens, man. And this is why, you had, the crucifixion, that was mainly for non-Roman citizens, man, like Yahweh Shah, okay, like uh, the crucifixion was looked at as a slave death, okay, and if you wasn't a Roman citizen, okay, you'll be punished as it was a slave death, man, a humiliating death, okay, and it was meant it was meant as also, as a psychological thing, okay, to those who would defy Rome, okay. So that crucifixion was a public humiliation, okay, being scourged, by that whip, okay. It was psychological, okay, to those that were subjugated to the Roman Empire throughout, those different provinces, man, okay. So going back, and said right to due process, a formal trial, legal appeals, protection from mob justice, man. All right, because Jake was finna give out mob justice, man. Okay, they were trying to beat him to death. Okay, but since he's a Roman citizen, he was exempt from those things. Okay, that's why he was able to come before, certain kings and, governors. You see, men of high status because his citizenship granted him an audience. Okay, it says right to appeal to Caesar. It said Paul later uses this in Acts 25. This literally gets him to Rome on the empire's dime. Okay. It says citizens were treated as people with dignity and honor. Non-citizens, most of the empire, did not have these rights. Okay. So it says, was Roman citizenship like American citizenship? It says yes, in principle, all right, no in scope. It said similarity. It said Roman citizenship was very much like modern citizenship, and that it granted legal protections, granted due process, offered rights not available to everyone, could be inherited by birth, could be used to challenge government abuse. In Acts 22, Paul is basically saying you're violating my constitutional rights. That's a very modern moment. It says key differences, which when I looked at it, is really the same thing. Okay? Because it's a corrupt system. Okay? The system is corrupt as hell. It was corrupt back then and it's corrupt now. So they go into the differences, but I'm like, really, this is the same thing that's going on. Okay, for in some instances, as you read into it, it says not universal, only a minority of people were Roman citizens. Most people in the empire had no political or legal voice. And you look at it today, all right, all these American citizens, but they don't have, no political voice or legal voice when it comes to how the government should be ran. Okay, it said no democracy. Roman citizens didn't vote the way Americans do, which the American vote is a sham. It don't matter. Okay, they were just a little more upfront with it, but we see that old Roman way coming back. Especially in the Nero. Okay, but their voting, okay, didn't play a major part. Okay, within Roman politics. Okay, in a lot of instances, you did have votes. They did do votes and ballots. Okay, in certain instances. Okay, but not like America where you just vote on everything. The judge, the local official, the sheriff, you just vote on everything. Okay, and it says power was concentrated in elites. All right, and emperors. Not we seeing this today. Okay, where the power, okay, or the government. You see, the power of the empire is concentrated amongst the elites and the emperors, man. Okay, the same thing today. You see, and this Trump, which we know he's an ancient emperor coming back, Nero coming back. Okay, you see that the power is concentrated amongst that class, man, from Trump. Which he's a small guy in the scheme of things. Okay, with the little authority that he has, okay, it's concentrated, and the rest of the authority is concentrated amongst those elites, okay, who set them up. So we're seeing the same thing today. It says showing you that we are what in Rome 2.0, man. That deadly wound was healed. Okay. It says unequal application says wealth and status still matter a lot. A poor citizen had fewer practical protection than a rich one. It's the same thing today. Okay. Wealth gives you, it's like you can be a citizen. Okay, but if you're poor, you just have the basic citizenship. You don't have the perks and privileges of a rich citizen. Okay, someone with wealth and status, man. Okay, it says citizenship is privilege, not assumption. In Rome, citizenship was a status marker. All right, in the U.S., citizenship is a baseline expectation, man. Okay, so yeah, that's the point. Just wanted to get into that. So that concludes that chapter, Acts 22. Just want to tap into Roman citizenship and compare it to today. All right, what you see a lot of similarities, man. So just like people, are reincarnated in the earth, well, those kingdoms, because the kingdom is made up of what people. Okay, so those same spirits of the ancient Roman Empire, from the higher up, the elite families, the emperors, okay, the subjects of Rome, well, they're all back today. Okay, and this is what we're seeing, playing out. Okay, real time, because this time Yahushua ain't coming to be a sacrifice. He's coming to judge. Okay, he's not going to meet thee as a man. He's coming to this new Roman Empire. Okay, with judgment. You see, real quick, let's go over here. You see, now he's coming to do what they fear he was going to do over 2,000 years ago. You know, because they would thought he was coming, you know, to wage war, okay, against Rome. All right, but it wasn't time. But now it is that time. Revelation 12:7 says, and there was war in heaven, all right, which is the atmosphere. Michael, which represents the armies of heaven, okay, which are going to be, you know, assisting Yahushua, okay. And it says, Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. So the heavenly host led by Yahushua is going to fight against the militaries of the dragon, which is Rome. Okay, Rome reloaded, man, the Roman Empire. Okay, America, NATO, and the EU, man. You see, he's going to come remove this government by force. You see, and this is what they feared last time. Herod he had all those Hebrew, you know, men slew. Okay, but they were thinking he was going to be on this time. If he grew up, they thought he was going to be on this time. But no, it wasn't that time. Now he's coming back on that time. Okay, and you was not going to be able to lay a hand on him. Okay, and he's coming to wage war, man. It's going to be all offense. Okay, it's going to be all offense, man. It says, and prevail not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And it says, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him, man. Okay, so these devils are going to lose. And this is what these devils are trying to fight up against. This is what they're trying to establish. Okay, a digital. This nigga think if he can get a digital system in place before this happened, he wins. Nah, man, y'all shot. It's gonna come tear that shit down, man. All right, their place, their position, their authority shall be found no more in heaven in rulership. Okay, and them and all their military, okay, weaponry that's in the heavens, the atmosphere. Okay, the air force, the air forces of the world, okay, are going to be obliterated at the coming of Yahweh Shai. Okay, it says in the Drake, and the great dragon was cast out. Okay, and this is Esau being cast out of power, man. The Roman Empire, this new revived Greco-Roman Empire, which this devil is trying to make digital, is going to be cast out, man. Okay, Yahweh Shai is coming to stomp it out. Okay, so yeah, that's the point, you know. Just wanted to get into this. And Lord will, you brothers, all right, and you sisters were edified once again. We give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Kakadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers. And peace and blessing, salutation, and hopefully, shalom.